I used to go on construction sites with my dad, sometimes as young as 8, because my mother would be busy, maybe doing some work, some side work, cleaning houses, whatever. So I'd go with my dad, and I loved it. I love tools. I love the guys. I love construction guys. My father was a mason contractor, and he used to build chimneys and fireplaces and developments and a lot of other things, stonework, concrete foundations, cellar floors, and I loved the whole thing. I have since I was a kid. The thing with it that I learned was how to use tools, which I was instinctively pretty good at it. I don't know why. I was a young kid. My father taught me. I remember one time he came home with a few bundles of roof shingles and he took them off the truck. And the next morning he went to work. The nails were there and I put them all over the bulkhead, nailed them to the bulkhead, covered them over, and did a good job shingling. He come home from work and he looked it all over. He said, "You did a pretty nice job. The problem is we can't go downstairs now." So after a couple of chuckles from him and the next door neighbor, they took all the shingles off. But I learned a lesson. I was self-taught in a lot of things. My dad was the same way. And I used to love to watch these guys. And on a particular day, I was sitting watching some men do the house framing. My father was in the other side of the house laying brick, building a chimney. What happened was I didn't have a place to sit down. There was no rocks, no tree stumps, no nothing. So I took it upon myself. One of the carpenters gave me a hammer and he said, "There's nails all over the ground. Help yourself." He gave me an old beat up handsaw and I made a stool. I made a stool that was very sturdy. It had a back on it that leaned backwards. It had 4 legs and braces on it, and it was pretty decent for a kid that was 8 years old, 9 at the most. And the carpenters were amazed by it. And they called my father over at lunchtime. They said, "You got to come over here and see what your kid did." And he admired it and said, "You did a nice job." Anyway, that's what got me interested in that line of work. I was a mason contractor myself until I retired. The fun thing about all of that was going home with some junk wood. And I could do things at home with my father's tools. I ruined half of them, lost the other half. But my father was a good guy. His problem was alcoholism. He drank for many years before he got sober. He got thrown out of his house. We learned through pain. He was thrown out. He managed to get back in the house and make promises that he'd never drink again, and he didn't. It was years, and I had some money. I wanted to buy some land up in the state of Maine because we were both hunters. He taught me how to hunt, and it was my best time with my dad. So I didn't have the money to buy this land, and he said, "Look, we'll go up next weekend. Let's take a look at it." I was about 30, 32. I had a house, but I didn't have enough money to go and purchase anything like that, to build a cabin, to go hunting in the woods. He gave me that money. He gave me the money, and we hired somebody to clear enough land. I think I had 10, 12, 14 acres, something like that. There was a river running down through it. You could, wash, clean dishes, that sort of thing. It was very out there in the woods, not too many main roads around. It was perfect for hunting. We'd hunted there before. And with my father being sober for a very long period of time at that time, I was about 32, 33. I was sober about 6, 7 months. and I was happy. And this was a wonderful thing to me, that me and my father and sober, and we're going up and have a campfire and talk and hang out, maybe go fishing. And he lent me the money and helped me build this cabin. We made a beautiful little cabin with a front porch, a back porch, full bathroom. Um, got running water. Learned how to do all the things to get water from down below. We dug a trench. We dug a well, and it turned out beautiful. The thing was, once it was all built, we'd spend time up there. And with my father being an alcoholic and me, we were at odds with each other. We sometimes didn't know how to deal with each other. It was just, it's hard to describe. If you're an alcoholic, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So many years with your dad, dealing with him when he's drunk, when he gets loud and he's angry, and you learned how to, um, manipulate that into going to bed and appeasing him on the argument he's having. And me being newly sober, I wasn't sure about anything. And it was really strange, but it was the beginning of something fantastic. My father was a manly guy. He was well decorated soldier. He was a combat instructor at West Point Military Academy. He was just a man's man, but a very nice man. And I didn't know how to deal with him. That was the beginning of a very long relationship until he died. And I think about this often. If he didn't give up the drink and I didn't give up the drink, this amazing part of life that a lot of men are missing would have happened. It affected me in a way that we were talking, and he started complimenting me on what I've done. He was happy I gave up drinking, and he patted me on the back. He said he was proud of me. And I took a little walk in the woods towards an outhouse that we had made, and I started crying at 32 years old because this never happened. That's the amazing part of alcoholism, is how much it destroys a family until you give it up. What happened before, I should say, what happened one day when I was a little kid, and I told you about the stool that I made. My father never congratulated me or said, "You did a nice job." He did sometimes, but he didn't want to give me too much of that. He died, and my brother and I, we went into the garage. He had it full. His shop, which was an extension of the garage, was full of all kinds of stuff. He had things up in the eaves that he'd saved for future projects or whatever. He didn't throw much away. And we were taking it all down. This is probably 4, 5, 6 months after he passed away. We took it all down, and there was the little stool that I made when I was 8. He wasn't man of many words, but he put that away up in the loft. And when we found it, he was gone for a while. I completely broke down in tears, thinking to myself that he was a real good man. He was an alcoholic. He got over it. He was a good father. He loved unconditionally. And I am very, very lucky to have had him. There's so many people that are out there that have problems in the home with drugs and alcohol. They don't get to experience this. They experience anger. and they run roughshod outside of their house over everything. They're angry at people. Be grateful if you've managed to get a hold of your life. Be good to children, be good to your wife, be good to your parents, be good to everybody, because it's really very short. This is Larry McDonald, celebrating sobriety. Come and visit me on Sundays. Have a coffee with Larry. Thank you.